We are back. You are chatting with John P. Today we are going to be talking about watches that I saw in Atlanta. Yes, I went to Atlanta. I'll tell you what was going on there, but first I'd like to thank you for coming back. Do not forget to like and subscribe. I really do appreciate it, and make sure to check out delraywatch.com, my website where we buy, sell, trade high-end and some more approachable pre-owned watches, so make sure to check out some very cool things there. So Atlanta. So basically, I went to Atlanta over the weekend here, had a little bit of a longer weekend, took a little bit of a break from work here to enjoy some time with friends and family. Some of my friends are in this band called Issues. They just released a brand new album. It's got a really cool sound. Link in the description below. Make sure to check them out. I think a lot of you guys would probably enjoy them. And if it's not your thing, at least it's part of this story, right? So basically, they were having an album release party for the new album. There was a lot of people there. It was on a boat, and I saw some very interesting watches, not only at the party with some interesting characters, but also on my trip there in Atlanta. I was staying in this area called Buckhead. Now, I expected to see just tons of basically high-end watches, but interestingly enough, I didn't see a lot of watches in Atlanta like I do in Miami and New York and even LA. It might just be because there's a bit of a different vibe in that city. If any of you live in Atlanta, please leave in the comments below kind of a true insider's glimpse into the watch scene there. What is it like outside of what I saw here? But the first watch that I saw was a two-tone blue Rolex Submariner, the 16613. Now, this specific one was a tritium dial. I saw this at the actual the album release party, and it was on an individual. He was in another band, and I was talking with him about it. He actually didn't know a whole lot about the watch. The conversation started going, and it turns out I told him, oh yeah, I'm a watch YouTuber. We also do the pre-owned watch, delraywatch.com, and it was pretty interesting because he received it as a gift, but I spotted it right away. But it's just interesting, right? Like, we're watch guys here, and we notice these things, but for many people, it's just kind of an accessory, not necessarily what has become, honestly, a way of life. But this two-tone sub is an absolute classic. I really liked seeing it on a younger guy as well. This guy was probably 21, 22 years old, and to see a tritium dial two-tone Rolex sub, it couldn't be any more obscure on a younger guy, in my opinion, but not in a bad way, right? I really like that generation of Rolex Submariner. It's becoming a classic. It's a transitional, obviously, tritium dial, and it just has a certain feel to it that's much different than the current gen maxi cases. So I know many of you like this as well. Leave in the comments below what you think about the two-tone subs and this transitional reference. Now, the next one on the list is not necessarily, a crazy high-end watch, but it's become a bit of a cult classic or an icon in its own regard. Now, this is a Casio Digital watch. Now, there's many versions of this. There's a calculator version. Obviously, it goes on, and there's different color variations. The one that I saw, I saw a bunch of these. There was a bit of like a hipster district called like Little 5 Points or something like that. And there was like a little event going on there. So we were going to some places there, and I saw this watch on so many young people. It was like, this is the latest craze. Now, personally, I'm pretty unfamiliar with this watch. I'll admit, I know it exists. I see it out there occasionally, but to see it on so many people on their wrists just casually walking by. Do any of you own this watch? I would love to know what you think about it. Tell me some of the nuances, the subtleties. Leave in the comments below about this one, because I'll admit I am new to this Casio watch, but I think it looks cool. And just to see, younger guys like myself and even younger getting into watches in some way, shape, or form is just always a good thing. So leave in the comments below. Now, the next one I saw at my hotel, it was actually a Planet Ocean, the 42 millimeter with the orange bezel. I really like this watch. Now, there's different versions of it, over the course of time. And of course, Omega just re-released a different version with the orange bezel, with the white dial, which is almost more of a red, but I think it's supposed to be orange, right? Because that's kind of how they designed this from the get-go. But the orange bezel Planet Ocean, it's a classic. It has a following in its own, because there's only so many watches out there that kind of have that popping color like an orange. And when you pair it with a black, it gives it kind of a grungy feel, but yet it's still a very rugged, durable, and of course luxury sports watch. So Planet Ocean, I saw that on someone at the hotel just getting in the elevator. It didn't seem like they were really a watch guy, but they had a cool watch. Perhaps they got it as a gift, or it was just kind of a one-time purchase. Moving on to the next one. Now, if you're familiar with airports and rental cars, so basically I was getting a rental car and they didn't have the car that I had ordered, so I kind of got upgraded to a pretty ridiculous car, I'll admit. And I'm waiting there for the car. They had to kind of find it and things like that. You know how the whole spiel goes with these companies. And so a couple of young guys walk in the door, and it turns out as we got talking, they were actually visiting Atlanta from somewhere in Nigeria, kind of just as like a holiday, a vacation. And one of the guys had a fully iced out Rolex Day-Date. Now, it was difficult to tell the reference. It looked like it was probably from the late 80s, early 90s. Just looking at the case shape and size and the way that the bracelet was. But when you get into something like this, it really does it does kind of branch out away from, true watches and the originality of the watch, and gets into some more aftermarket custom day dates. Now there's a big industry around this, more of a jewelry kind of, with the watch as almost the foundation of that piece and overall. But there were so many stones on this watch. It looked pretty cool. Now, from my perspective, I wouldn't say that this is necessarily anything that I would wear, but a lot of people do enjoy them. And when we're talking about watches as a little bit less of a hobby and more of an accessory, you see watches like this in showcases in certain cities. You go downtown Miami, you see it in showcases. Friends here that we know and do business with, they also carry a lot of these watches, because think about it, right? If you're not a watch geek like us and you walk into a store, you want a nice watch for yourself, for your wife, or you just want an overall cool looking watch and you like that flashy style, I mean, it doesn't really matter if the diamonds are aftermarket unless you're willing to pay a super premium for Rolex stones. And I don't think there's too many people that are willing to do that unless the money just doesn't make a difference. So saw that one, thought it was pretty cool, and put it on the list. And honestly, I didn't see that many watches. A little surprised considering basically a major city. Once again, leave in the comments below if you're from ATL. And lastly, I was a little bit surprised about this one. I saw the Tudor Black Bay red with the in-house movement, the 41 millimeter. Now, this one was on the strap, kind of the two-color strap, if you know what I mean. You could see in the picture here, the strap has a color, and then underneath it, it's a different color. It almost like a gradient. Very cool watch to see. I see them a lot here in Miami, and you see them a lot on the internet, the forums, but you don't always see them out there in the wild in other places, right? Tudor is a brand that a lot of watch buffs, watch collectors are really drawn to, but it's oftentimes can be difficult to squeeze someone else into that brand if they're very unfamiliar with it. And if they are familiar with it, many times they're familiar with the brand as being a more approachable or affordable Rolex. But whereas today, the brand has really kind of branched off, delved deeper into watchmaking, and created a pretty strong name for themselves. So to see this, this red or burgundy bezel Black Bay, I thought that was very interesting and unique. It was on a younger guy coming out of like a coffee shop. What would you call it? Almost like a museum coffee shop place. It was recommended in Yelp, but I forgot the name of the place. It was pretty good, actually, but very cool to see that. What do you guys think about Tudor? Because I did another video about this, talking about Tudor, actually a whole handful of videos, and there seems to be controversy, guys saying, oh, Tudor's not here to stay. Other guys are saying Tudor is the future. What do you think about Tudor, the Black Bay lineup? I want to know. I have my own opinions, which I talked about and I'll talk about again in the future, I am sure and certain of, but I want to hear yours in the comments below. So guys, hopefully you found this interesting. Did a similar video about the Starbucks watch sighting, so I figured I would throw this one out there as well. It's Monday here at Delray Watch. We have a whole bunch of cool things we're about to get live on the website for you. Do not forget to check it out. You can find me on Instagram, The Real John P. Also, don't forget to check out the album from my friends there in the band Issues. I'm sure you're going to love it. But anyway, guys, back to work here at Del Rey. Thanks for watching. You have been chatting with John P. Ciao.